All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. It is a beautiful Wednesday here in Seattle. I'm loving the summer so far. I hope it lasts longer, but it never does. But it's going to be a good episode. Today we have Charlotte Dunford with us from Johns Creek Capital. Charlotte does mobile home parks, which is great. Guys know I own a couple of those, really like the asset. So I'm super excited to dive in. Charlotte, thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. I told you before we got here, we like to start with stories. So take us to the beginning of your story. How'd you get started in real estate?
Right. So, the beginning of my story actually started when I came to the United States at the age of 16 from China. That's where I was born and raised for 16 years and came here for high school. My parents didn't come with me, which is myself. I pretty much applied for a high school online, got in, never met the high school, never met the host family, but they arranged me with the host family. So I hopped on the plane and flew to Philadelphia. That was 16
Philly,
years old.
interesting.
Yeah.
Why'd you choose Philly?
It was just the first school that accepted me.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
understand anything about the United States, the
Yeah.
geography. It could have been Salt Lake City. It could have been Seattle.
Yeah. I was gonna say you just
You know,
really like
it's
cheese.
just
Yeah. Cheese
well,
sandwich.
that's something I developed later on, right? So I came to the United States at 16. Didn't speak English. Had to learn everything from scratch. But I decided to really. I made blending in or joining the American society as something that I was passionate about. I was determined that I had to do that. I wasn't going to be one of those people who have been there for 45 years and don't speak English, that kind of person. So I came early and I made that a goal. And I developed a love for cheeseburgers and hot dogs and all the good American stuff. And the
Apple pie and baseball. There you go.
exactly. So America as a country as well. So, and also the love for real estate. So and then I went on to college here in Georgia, which is why I came to Georgia. Went to Georgia Institute of Technology, one of the top engineering schools in the South, definitely actually in the nation as well. We call ourselves the MIT in the South, and or MIT is the Georgia Tech up north, right? So I graduated at Georgia Tech, moved on to my first job out of college as a business analyst. I started buying real estate on the side using my salary to finance. However, as you can imagine, as a fresh grad of college, it was difficult to finance lots of real estate and difficult to scale up just based on your salary. Despite of getting promotions and raises, it's impossible to keep up with my ambition of scaling based on my salary raises, right? So after one single family home in the south of Atlanta and another duplex up in North Georgia, both performed pretty well. I decided to take the jump to starting my own private equity firm because of my business background, small business background at the time when I graduated from college and my experience working as a business analyst. So it was a big jump for me, particularly because like I said, I graduated college at that time about 2 years ago. Well, 2 years at the time, right? And my husband at the time I was married and at the time was still in school at Georgia Tech, studying computer science, and he did not graduate yet. So that was quite a risky move for me. It wasn't like I had an entire 401k or entire savings account of millions of dollars, saving, waiting for me to launch this venture. But I was 24 and bold and wanted to do something great. So fast forward a few years later to 29 now, 5 years later. So I have 28 mobile home parks and lots of really great investors on board, our clients, and growing more and continue to expand in this landscape.
Nice. I love it. Yeah. Coming from a new country, it sounds like you did not speak the language. You didn't speak English when you came over here.
Very little. It's as if you took some Spanish in high school and you say you speak Spanish kind of
Right.
thing. You don't speak
Even
Spanish,
now, I
right?
lived in Spain and in El Salvador for a little bit, and
Oh, you did?
I like people hear me speak Spanish and they're like, "Oh, you speak Spanish?" I'm like, "No, I do not speak
Oh
Spanish.
yeah,
I understand Spanish, but it's just I could only imagine
it's
coming from a
different.
new country and then
Yeah,
trying to establish yourself both,
right.
in your education and your career, all that. So it shows you got a lot of grit, you got a lot of ability to push through obstacles, which is super necessary in real estate because obstacles come every single day. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
why? Let me ask, why did you choose mobile home parks?
So when I tried to get in, I wanted to do, I started with a single family home and a duplex, but I wanted to get in multifamily. So I thought that was the really fancy and nice, glorious thing to do, right? Everybody wanted to get in there. However, I quickly realized that when I talked to brokers and the sellers, they wouldn't even talk to you unless you have 30 years of experience or have huge, hefty amount of cash on hand. So for me at the time, it just was not really possible. And I also saw too much competition. One of my favorite book of all time, Zero to One by Peter Thiel. He talks about this blue ocean strategy. He talks about the only reason businesses fail is they fail to escape competition because
Hmm.
too much competition is a race to the bottom. So I refuse to be in this saturated space that's overheated. You're buying stuff at 3, 4 caps, and it's just extremely difficult to get a good deal. So I'm all about making a good deal. So at the time, I would say stumble upon. Yeah, I looked, I listened to podcasts. I listened, I read books, and I discovered mobile home parks as a kind of a forgotten, you kind of ignored at the time. Now it's getting hotter, but the ignored space. And there's a lot of meat on the bone. And yeah, that's how I found mobile home parks. That's why I
All
decided
right.
to go into the blue ocean.
Yeah. I don't know if I would say mobile home parks are blue ocean these days. I know, we still look for mobile home parks and cap rates are getting compressed pretty much everywhere, which is, that happens when you got a lot of capital out there.
Yeah,
Um, so you just chose mobile home parks because there was less competition than in the multifamily space. Totally makes sense. There's
correct.
still a lot of demand for housing out there, so mobile home parks are still a needed commodity on the or asset in the world. At what point or what was your buying criteria when you first started? Like, what were you guys looking for? What metros were you looking at?
So, well, nowadays we have gotten 28 mobile home parks,
Hmm.
and we kind of look at the deals that are working exceptionally well, and see what is going on with them and why they're working so well. And we look at them and see what do we do right, and we found that there are now about 20 different parameters that we look at, and we pretty much have a proprietary algorithm that we develop inside John Street Capital to qualify these deals. And we have a way to finding the small to medium level mobile home parks, not just the big over 200 pads mobile home parks that everybody wants to chase
Everybody
after.
wants,
We're
yeah.
always in blue ocean. We want a smaller one. So, for example, there's one that we got a 20 lot park that we completed full cycle of last year, and that one had a project level internal rate of return of almost 25%. I think it's 26. So it's very high. So we're all about getting good deals. So as far as the parameters, some of the major ones, number one is tenant-owned homes,
Mm.
right? The mobile home park is a parking lot business. You think of it as a parking lot. Another way to think of it is an HOA or a neighborhood. So you're not really, in the rental business. You're not renting the homes. You don't want to get into the repairing a car, right? So you're in the parking lot. So you're running on the dirt underneath the home. So that's number one. You want to stick with what the asset class is
That
known
that's the
for.
thing that most frustrates me about getting deals from brokers is they include the tenant-owned home rent in the cap rate
I
equation.
mean, the park owned
And
homes?
so
Yeah.
yeah, park-owned home rent. And so they'll put out their OM and they'll say like this is a 14 cap mobile home park. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is not a 14 cap. All
Well,
this
that's,
rent's gonna be
yeah,
gone when you
yeah.
buy it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what brokers are there for. They're there to sell the deal. And if you don't know anything, then you're gonna fall for it, right? So,
Yeah.
but for us, it's important to only look at the tenant-owned homes, and this is number one. And then utility structure, right? The biggest money maker we think is rent increases because they're really behind. in a lot of the homes, and you want to make sure you raise rent for your mobile home park lot rent. And number two, the biggest money loser is utilities. So
Mm.
you want to make sure the utility lines are intact and they're good. You want to make sure you do a camera job. You want to do whatever inspections you need, and then the infrastructure of utilities are important. So we prefer public utilities, preferably sub-metered and billed back to tenants. Whenever the brokerage, well, whatever the OEM says, utilities included in rent, that just means that park is paying utilities, and it's a really difficult situation to handle, right? So you
Yeah.
have to decipher, you have to learn how to decipher what it actually means, right? So it's almost a different language. It's the code that you have to understand when you're reading an OM, and that comes from experience.
Yeah. So when you guys, let's say there's a park, utilities included, quote unquote, in the rent, do you guys go there and submeter each lot when you buy the park? Do you put on, I can't remember what those little things are in the, you can buy kits that you put onto the water
Mm.
spout and it'll submeter it individually, quote unquote. Do you guys do that, or do you just leave it and then base your underwriting on the rent itself?
It depends on the tenant base. We found the most effective just raising the rent and
Mm,
really let the utilities
yeah,
include the rent, because you're going to tell them that, hey, we're going to bill back the utilities, and tenants are going to be saying, well, I didn't use water. How comes I get, billed the
yeah,
rent? Because
yeah,
if you don't sub-meter, and sub-meter is another big project, right? If you got the budget for it and then the math makes sense, go ahead and do it. And that is the value add, pretty solid value add strategy. But I would say, the most effective one, and the one that received the least backfire, was just raising rent.
just raising rent. Yeah,
Maybe because
yeah.
they're already accustomed to that model, and you can't tell them as a landlord you can raise rent. So you gotta maneuver carefully in that space.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what we ultimately decided, just because it was just a lot easier just to raise the rent a little bit, and we got a lot less pushback than if we said, okay,
Exactly.
now you're getting you were billing back
Yeah.
the utilities, all this stuff. So yeah, makes a lot of sense. When you're talking about repairs when you're buying a park, what are the most common things that you guys are underwriting for capex?
So the repairs we would say is, well, number one, utilities, utility lines. Those are probably the most expensive item. So utility lines, number one. And number two, road work.
Okay.
Number three,
Do you guys pave if it's like gravel? Do you guys pave the roads
we,
or
we, we don't really repave the roads completely. It just makes the project a lot bigger, and I don't know if it is enough.
really
And yeah, we
expensive?
would
Yeah.
rather spend that budget on infilling. If you really
Mhm.
want to drive revenue, you want to infill.
Mhm.
Infilling, for those listeners who don't understand, who probably haven't invested in mobile home, infilling is just there are different ways to infill, right? You can buy a new park-owned home and bring it to your park and sell it off to a tenant on a rent credit program, or you can sell it to them straight. Or you can advertise a lot and pay some lot prep fees and for those tenants to move their homes in, because again, you're a parking lot, you're an HOA, you're a neighborhood, right? So you run this neighborhood, you want to make sure that the neighborhood is attractive and comfortable for the tenants to live in. So they don't want to leave, they want to move to your park. We actually have parks that tenants just want to apply and live in there and buy their own home and move in here. So that's the most cost effective way and most lucrative way of make money through infilling.
Mm,
And CapEx, road work and utilities. I would say those are the biggest ticket items.
yeah. And do you guys prefer to buy, park models, bring them in, or do you guys like to market and try to see if you can get people to bring their own mobile home parks into your park
So we
or
definitely
mobile homes?
like advertising the lots. And I
Yeah.
think especially nowadays, inventory for mobile homes are so low,
Mm,
and that drives the price up. It's not really economically feasible,
yeah.
or really not a big
Especially
deal.
transportation costs. Yeah.
Yeah, a moving fee is $10,000 alone. And if you get a really trashy home, then that's another headache. Why would you want that, right? So, there are always exceptions to the rule, but I would just say, you know, a mobile home park is a business.
Yeah.
If you invest in real estate, it's a business. A duplex is a business. If you rent out your single family home, it's a business. So you got to understand, what kind of clientele you're serving, how that business works, to judge it case by case. But I would say in general, it's much better to
Yep.
advertise it a lot, because let the asset do what it needs to do. Parking lot.
Yep. All right. One last question on the mobile home front. You've already touched on this a little bit. You mentioned that raising rents, that's the biggest value add that you guys, and, when you buy a park, you're looking at the market rents. Is it under market? Great. This is a good value add that we can do. Are there any other value add strategies that you have when you go into underwriting the deal?
Right. So, the deal, you have to buy a great deal to start with, right? It has great infrastructure. That's number one. It all boils down to that. After that, it's too late. Um, so as far as raising the rent, you have to make certain improvements, cosmetic improvements to improve the curb appeal, get a new sign, add white fences to the park to make it a more homey feeling country feel for the mobile home park. So you can't just, well, you can do that, but you may have some pushback
Get
if you just
pushback.
want
Yeah.
to raise rent like crazy. So you want to make improvements. You want to enforce park rules and regulations because a lot of park residents they have really unruly tenants, neighbors they don't like. You know how in a mobile home park that can totally be an issue. So you want to enforce your rules, so it makes it a better place for everybody to live in. So that's number two. That's how you can make improvement to establish stronger management and operations. And
Yeah.
another thing, and then the third thing is infilling. Infilling is very effective. Sometimes can be expensive, but probably the most lucrative way to make money
Yeah.
is infilling to drive your revenue significantly up. And then ultimately, you want your value of the park to be up, right? So it's all about your NOI, net operating income.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we learned the importance of good management at the very beginning when we bought these parks. We had not great property management in place, and then we got a really good property manager who we have now. She's absolutely kick ass, and the difference between having a bad one versus having a good one is just night and day. I mean, enforcing the rules, having a good relationship with the tenants, yeah, for the property manager can make such a big difference for the tenants experience, at the park, all those things. Do you guys have any tips, any guidelines that you kind of follow when you look for a property manager or when you think about management of the property itself?
so we manage everything in house. My partner is the property manager.
Oh wow, for
Yeah.
28
So
parks, wow.
right. So, but we're in the smaller park space, right? So
Hmm.
it's just it makes more sense for us. We're in a different game, really. So we
Yeah,
kind of yeah. So my partner manages is the property manager. So there are certain rules and regulations that we follow. So as far as looking for any kind of contractors, and we always have a local watch person per se to
yeah,
look
a
over the
boots on
park
the ground kind of
to
person.
build that kind of operation. And we do make site visits, but for that kind of boots on the ground, we do assemble a team that during due diligence or shortly after acquisition, we build a team that can serve this part, the repair people, city officials, local authorities, contractors. You do look for qualities like you look for any kind of corporate employee. Reliable, charge good prices for what they do. They deliver more value than than what you pay them, obviously. So it's all about hiring the right people.
Yeah.
Hire slowly and fire quickly, right? So you want to make sure that you get the right hire.
Yeah, that is one of the hardest things about smaller properties is finding somebody that can help you boots on the ground that still fits within, a reasonable budget essentially. We also buy or not mobile home parks, self storage facilities and smaller self storage facilities. We have a huge,
Yeah,
a big issue finding help that is still at a price point that makes sense for the net income that we're trying to generate. So,
yeah.
yeah. Do you guys look on Craigslist? What's your best way to find?
Yeah, Craigslist. Yeah.
Yeah, Craigslist.
No, we actually don't.
Oh
That
no, okay.
No, yeah. So we probably a lot of those small mobile home parks in areas where people are not very techy. Like
Mm,
me, I graduated from Georgia Tech, is extremely techy, and so we usually go by referrals, and
okay.
we
You ask the people in the
the
park, hey, who's
local
trustworthy?
chamber of commerce. Well, people in the park maybe it's one source, but it's not probably not the only source. So we when you're doing due diligence, right, you hire contractors to inspect the park, and that's a good source. So
Okay.
you just want to go in a way where the locals do, right? So because if you operate smaller parks with the mindset of bigger parks, and you have to find people charging high prices, then you're probably out of the game. It's not good for business. So for us, you just have to find a fit for you. And the way you find it is different from the way you find it for other things. Because why would it be the same? It wouldn't
Yeah.
be the same because it's a different animal.
Yep.
So I would say local referrals would be the best.
Cool. I love it. All right. I just took a peek at the clock. It looks like we have run it down. So it's time to jump into the quick question round. Are you ready?
Yep, let's do it.
Let's do it. Starts with books or any form of education. I need two recommendations. Give me one for general life wisdom and one for real estate or business specific.
Well, one is my whole-time favorite, 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. One for generous wisdom is called Traction.
Oh, yeah.
Traction. Yep.
I've heard of that. I haven't
Traction
read it
from
yet, but
Phil.
I've heard good things.
The best book ever.
There you go. All right. Next question is for your younger self. So let's go back to the Charlotte who had zero experience. She was just coming over from China, just stepped off the plane in Georgia. Oh no, Pittsburgh. Just stepped off the plane in
It's
Pittsburgh.
Philadelphia.
Yep, there or Philadelphia. Yeah, there you go. Go back to her, look her in the eye, give her one piece of advice moving forward.
Relax, it's gonna be fine.
Nice. That nobody said that yet, but I feel like that's really good advice, especially for your younger self. When we're younger, it's so easy to just get like stressed out about making progress. But you know, the key is just to put one foot in front of the other over a number of years. And if you just keep going forward, you're gonna get to where you want to go. Just chill out. I'd probably say that same thing to my younger self too.
Yeah.
All right, next question is about your business. The first three positions we hire form the foundation of our business. So, what were the first three positions for you? And would you do it differently if you did it again today?
So number one would be accounting department, tax, accounting person. Number two was a compliance officer because we operate in so many different states. We require permitting, foreign registration, not foreign as a foreigner in another country, but different states, right? Foreign
Yeah.
registration with the
So
state
annoying. All
compliance.
those
Yeah,
those
you need
things you
someone
got
to
to do.
handle that who has the legal background. And number three is your attorney
Okay, I love it.
because we operate in the private equity. They understand SEC regulations. That's extremely important. You don't want to get in trouble with that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next question is about the US. A lot of opportunity out there. Give me the single metro that you're most excited about investing in today.
Wow, that's a good one. Tampa, Florida.
Tampa. Okay.
Mm.
People have said every city in Florida. Florida seems to be very hot, but not many people have been saying Tampa. What specifically about Tampa are you excited about?
I think it just has so many different, it's a solid metro. It has
Hmm.
a huge population and it has I think Tampa just has all the requirements that's met, 100,000, at least 100,000 in population and job growth, economic growth, and diversity in job in employers. And it's particularly for mobile home parks. I think that is a great area, right? So if you say Manhattan, it's probably not the best place for mobile home parks.
True, because there are none
So
there.
it's different. So you choose your market based on your asset.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Tampa, man, I'm brain farting. That's the south of Florida, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Cool. All right. Next question is about lead generation at all. Every deal starts with finding the deal in the first place. So what's your guys' favorite way of finding good deals
Building relationships with brokers and sellers.
and
A lot of
sellers? Okay.
times real estate is and probably will be a relationship business. And technology advances. You want to make sure that we are developing internal algorithms to match that. To make sure that from that's number one. And from number two, online perspective, you want to be able to reach to all these people. So as technology advances, as AI technology advances, we want to make sure that we know how to use that. That's going to be the next few decades. That's
Yeah,
the
man.
beauty.
I consider myself relatively techie, and I haven't even thought about adding AI to my business. I'm just like, whatever.
But go
I'm
ahead
sure
and
somebody will
start
come up with a solution, and I'll just
register a chat GPT account. You'll be amazed by it.
I've played around with Chat GPT. I just
Yeah.
haven't really thought of. I guess you can school me right now. What are some good applications for AI in your mobile home park business?
Well, right now the AIs they're not mature enough yet to really
Mm-hmm.
implement in the business. But
Okay.
what we want to do is that to implement that methodology, for example, training our algorithm, a lot of big investment banks like Goldman Sachs and a lot of really like Blackstone group, they're training their own AI models, their
Mm.
own software, so that it trains them with financial data again and again and again. It builds an algorithm to help them source deals. It does it better, faster than any humans would ever do. And
Oh,
then
okay. So
they
you're just
won't
talking
need
about building
financial
an
analysts.
algorithm, yeah, an AI that can kind of
Right. And when the technology becomes more mature, I'm sure there will be be a software that's for that. That's
for
very smart.
underwriting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
underwriting.
Um,
And they're already doing that. And that's probably their core technology. And they probably wouldn't hire as many financial analysts anymore.
poor financial analyst. So sad.
Oh, there will be new jobs, right? New jobs
Yeah, yeah. They'll all be AI
running those.
analysts going forward. All right. Now, last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. What is the best way for them to do that?
The best way is to go to our website at johnscreekcapital.com. I'm sure you have that in your show notes. And also, you can email us directly at info@johnscreekcapital.com.
Perfect. As Charlotte mentioned, we will be putting that in our show notes. So if you guys want to reach out, just click a little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description. In there, you can find Charlotte's link. All right, that wraps it up. Charlotte, thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. For everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, reach out to me, Gabe at the realestateInvestingClub.com. And as always, if you guys want to support the show, all we ask is you give us a like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.